Actually, John is in what Rasmussen terms a Arlen Specter territory. About 47%, anywhere from 47 to 50%, not numbers that behoove an incumbent. So we are in a very strong position. The debates will really help us make the case, because John will have no other chance and no other choice but to defend his record. So we're going to invite him. Make the case for amnesty, John. Make the case for the bailout. Make the case for voting against the tax cuts. Make the case for putting Washington bureaucrats into somebody's vitamin stash. Make the case for taking away citizens' rights in the name of national security, even as you have tried to offer rights to enemy combatants. You try to take away citizens' rights in your new legislation written with Joe Lieberman. There's a lot John McCain has to answer for, and I have every confidence in the final weeks of this campaign we will close the gap, and Arizonans will opt for the consistent conservative.
When obviously you're not a political newcomer. I mean, 12 years in Congress. Is there a little bit of intimidation going up against an incumbent like John McCain? Or you mentioned Arlen Specter and sort of that speculation there. We've seen two long-term senators, not just Specter, but also Bob Bennett, of course, from Utah. Do you see that as sort of hope that incumbents can be beat, and people are tired, as we said, with that Washington disconnect?
I think, and real grassroots conservatives around the country, not the weak-kneed Washington bunch, so afraid of incumbents, but people in the heartland of America really understand what is at stake here in Arizona. It is nothing less than the conservative ascendancy in the Republican Party. When we win this, it will send a signal. Understand that the nominee of our party 2 years ago, who has lurched so far to the left, trying to really engage in a form of Me Tooism with Barack Obama, that Republicans reject that. They want a consistently conservative philosophy. And no, it doesn't intimidate me to make these points in the presence of John McCain. I eagerly embrace this opportunity because people in Arizona asked me to mount this challenge. Mr. McCain, through his typical kind of Washington antics, sought to intimidate me, but he picked the wrong guy to pick on.
When we were waiting on you, reading all of the letters and notes and whatnot from supporters on your wall, I mean, that's got to just be overwhelming, obviously, to hear from, not just people in Arizona, but folks all around the country that are giving you money saying it's time to send McCain home and a change,
This is a classic campaign, truly a grassroots campaign versus the greenbacks of Washington and the establishment. And the irony is that here you have the leading proponent of so-called campaign finance reform, who told us about how debilitating and how demoralizing and ultimately how corrupt donations are. Well, he got over that in the New York nanosecond. In fact, I even understand, this might be something to keep an eye on, I understand he's actually cracked into the vault that was the $20 million in that presidential fund that was supposed to be held to pay off accounts and lawsuits and all that. We want to take a look at that report, because what I'm hearing is he has reached into that fund. And doesn't that speak volumes? A so-called reformer reaching in via loopholes to take more and more money. I guess this campaign comes down not really to a debate between John McCain and Jdh Hayworth, but really a debate between the two John McCains. The one who said we needed campaign finance reform as opposed to the one looking for money under every rock and nook and cranny. The John McCain who said he was opposed to tax cuts, now saying they ought to be extended. The John McCain who championed cap and trade and wrote the bill, to one who is now trying to stay quiet on the subject. Listen, it's not so much Jdh Hayworth against John McCain as it is John McCain versus John McCain.
Last question for you. What do you want John Q. Public, maybe in Missouri or Virginia, who may not fully know what Jdh Hayworth is all about, despite your time in Congress and whatnot? What do you want people to know? Let's just pick 3 top things that you're campaigning on and that you're working for if you get this bid for U.S. Senate?
Well, I am an unalterable opposed. Let me try it again. This is for the Christmas one. You had a nice question. I really messed that up. But I am unalterably opposed to amnesty. That's why America's toughest sheriff, Joe Arpaio, has endorsed my candidacy. I will work to enact the Enforcement First Act and actually enforce the law and fight amnesty with every fiber of my being. I do believe that cutting taxes is the key to seeing economic prosperity. In fact, I say tax relief first, tax reform next. And I must tell you, in all sincerity, when it comes down to the notion of cap and trade, I just don't believe what my opponent says. He said when he unveiled that legislation, and I'm quoting now, I don't see how you can be a conservative and oppose cap and trade. Well, really, John? I do, because I know it would drive up energy costs, I know it would drive down the standard of living for Americans, and I know it's embracing a scientific hoax. There's no global warming. That's all a hoax, but I can tell you this. If you go back and find out the roster of the McCain campaign, his campaign spokesman at one point in time was Al Gore's research director. That tells you all you need to know about the veracity of the information coming from the McCain campaign.
Interesting. Okay, so I lied. I think I was going to make that my last question, but one last one to tie it up here. It sounds like it's pretty easy, looking at the record, looking at all of the way he's voted and whatnot, to sort of paint him or portray him as this liberal Republican. You found that that's been relatively easy in this campaign to do?
Well, the record is there, and the political wind is at my back. But lately, a stiff breeze has developed with the millions of dollars in the carpet bombing of TV ads trying to change the subject. And really, this will become a test case. Will Arizona succumb to politics as usual, or is 2010 really the year of a grassroots conservative insurgence? As I'm fond of saying, certainly Mr. McCain, with all the name-calling and all the attack ads, has tried to magnify my alleged faults. And I'm far from perfect, but I am a consistent conservative, not kowtowing to the D.C. crowd. When people ask me where I stand, they give an honest answer. And I think that's what they're going to want in a United States Senate.
Good. You think of anything?
I just wanted to talk about SB 1070 specifically, about the things that...
Just quick thoughts on, some of these lawsuits. I mean, you obviously have some members of law enforcement in this state, that are saying this puts us into a really funny position here, becoming Border Patrol agents essentially, and then of course all the stuff coming down from the DOJ. What is your general thoughts on all of the happenings? I know that's probably not a very specific question.
Casey, don't worry, you can give me...
Such a broad topic. I mean, there are so many angles to it, obviously, but generally speaking.
Well, understand that the law enforcement officials who have protested this in Arizona are few and far between. The fact is, Sheriff Arpaio has endorsed me. He's likewise endorsed Senate Bill 1070. The Phoenix Law Enforcement Association, made up of cops on the beat rather than administrators, support me and support Senate Bill 1070. The Border Patrol local, the Association of Border Patrol Officers in Tucson, support me and enforcing the law. And the Arizona Police Association supports me likewise. Why? Because like the citizenry of Arizona, they want to see the laws enforced. And quite frankly, in the fullness of time, we've seen the polling. Americans have come to agree with us. Actually, I've taken a look at a poll that shows that 57% of Americans believe that Arizona Senate Bill 1070 is exactly the right approach. And there's 16 to 17% don't believe it's tough enough.
Right.